Hi, and welcome to OCDTV. I'm Keith Martin alongside Brian Connors and the Jamerson Horton.
Good to be here.
What's up, fellas? How we doing today?
I'll live.
So, as you can see by our decorations on the table, today is Star Wars. We have done the show a few times, and we've discovered that, hey, we haven't done a Star Wars show yet.
It's a crime.
And that is a crime. So,
A long time ago in a studio far, far away.
So we're going to jump right in. Jamie, what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, I really like all three of the original trilogy. I think I'm going to have to go with A New Hope just because it's just, yes, some of the dialogue and the acting is histrionic, to say the least, and some of the special effects don't really match up with some of the later films, but it's lightning in a bottle. It's a complete story. It is the hero's quest. It just has this magic that the others maybe don't quite match.
Okay, how about you, Brian?
Well, of course, the holiday special. No, really, I agree. New Hope.
Might go 3 for 3 here.
I mean, honestly, I kind of. Probably when I was a kid, I liked Return of the Jedi better, but I mean, if you take them all as one story, it's kind of pointless to. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say out of the originals, A New Hope is probably my favorite as well. But again, I don't really look at it that way, though. Like, I always look at it from all the way from 1 to 6, so I see it as one big story. Interesting side note: I read something on the internet a while back that. Of an alternate way to watch them that makes it cooler, I guess. I don't know. If you start with 4, so you start with A New Hope, go 4, 5, drop down to, you could leave 1 out if you want, or and go
Machete order?
Yeah, something like that. And then go 2, 3, and then 6, or 1, 2, 3, 6.
Okay, so at the Revelation, then you tell his backstory.
Right, then you drop
prequels.
back to the prequels, and I guess it just makes it make a little more sense, and it doesn't hurt as much.
Certainly, it ruins that reveal if you watch them in order.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you blow the whole reveal because obviously you already know who Anakin is at that point.
Right.
Well,
and it also makes that story. Then it's not Anakin's story, as the redemption of Anakin. So it's actually still Luke's story at that point.
Yes.
So it just makes for a better story that way, I guess.
I will say Attack of the Clones. I read it in book form when it came out.
Yeah, I spoiled those for myself as well.
It should have been a much better movie based on what was in the book.
What was based on the book, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because as far as Attack of the Clone goes, I really liked Attack of the Clones a bit. I mean, there's a lot of, I think with the prequels, because I know I'm kind of going out of order of what we wanted to do, but I don't mind.
It's OCDTV. It's public access.
Yeah, it's public access. What are we doing?
Our sponsors aren't going to get mad.
As far as the prequels go, like, I don't hate them as much as a lot of other people do. My thing with a lot of things that other people find annoying in them is I don't mind making the leaps of logic. I kind of fill in the gaps on my own. I'm like, oh, why did they do that? Well, because this makes sense. Like, for instance, like the idea of like Sifo-Dyas and who was that guy? They mentioned this guy and they never give him any backstory. It's like, well, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. It's probably Sidious, Sifo-Dyas, something like that. Or more importantly, like one of my favorite scenes from Revenge of the Sith is the opera scene, and when Palpatine is telling Anakin the story of Darth Plagueis, and you can make that leap of logic and say, okay, so Palpatine was the apprentice who killed Darth Plagueis.
That I say would be one of the rare sparks of actual creativity in the prequels. And if you ask me, like, well, we are jumping ahead though.
Yeah,
which
it's okay.
Prequel I like the best? That's actually a more difficult question because I have such a love-hate relationship with all three, and of course, the love is of a much lesser degree than any of the films from the original trilogy. But
blinded by nostalgia. Go ahead.
Well, when we get to the prequels.
Blinded by the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like I said, don't worry about staying in order now. Now we're just we're taking it all and just throwing it on the table. Hit it.
All right. But
I'm throwing the format out.
But to get back to your point about that there are things that are hinted at, certainly the original trilogy does that, where it's, I would argue, not to that degree, where they don't come off as being as confusing as the prequels.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I think that was Lucas's original intent for like all the movies, that it's a story in progress, and he lets you know just enough in the opening crawl that you can follow the story and know who most of the characters are, what the conflict is. But then it moves really fast, and you really just have to kind of jump on and understand what's going on by the the dialogue.
Right.
And some of them are more of character archetypes. Not a lot of really complex characters in Star Wars,
No,
because
not
it's
really.
more fantasy than it is science fiction. You're almost watching newsreel footage. I'm taking this too far, of course. And you are kind of piecing together what's going on as you're watching it.
The oral history version of the Journal of the Wills.
Right. Yes. What is Wills even in reference to?
I don't know. Maybe Lucas knows. I mean, he did throw a lot of things out there that you were just supposed to say, okay, I guess that exists. I don't know what it is, but there it is.
The Jedi Bendu saga, whatever you call it.
Yeah, you don't know. So kind of going along with the theme we were just talking about was, all right, so things in the original trilogy and the prequels say that that you really like, and some of the things that that made you shake your head.
Okay.
Like what are some ideas? Like for me, for instance, in the prequels, obviously midichlorians.
Right.
Hate it. Stupid idea.
Yeah.
It was just dumb. So. So that's one thing I could, take Lucas out behind the woodshed and just, beat him for a little while. Say, why did you even do that? So what do you guys got?
Well, I think the best thing, I mean, I have to admit here, I'm a original trilogy special edition person, which I'm pretty sure makes me hated by all fans.
Well, I'm with you, but other than that, everyone else is going to want to, take you out behind the woodshed, just like Lucas.
And I've got a whole thing to say about special effects and all that, but I mean, I think really, I don't know, I might be getting a little off topic here, but I mean, I think it's pretty clear, Lucas was at his best when he just gave someone else the idea and let them run with it.
Oh yeah, obviously if you look at Empire and Return of the Jedi, different directors.
Yeah, different screenwriters too. Right. So, he can't really write dialogue, realistic sounding dialogue.
You get a bad feeling about it. You
Come
really do.
on. I make this argument a lot, and particularly with our buddy Steve, that the dialogue in the prequels and in the original trilogy is equally bad. It does, maybe some, the delivery of the lines in the prequels might be even a little more over the top, but the writing itself is just as bad or good.
I suppose, but the
depending on how you
prequel
want to look at it.
characters aren't as interesting. You don't have these colorful rogues.
So they're the same. Well, obviously you don't have the colorful rogues because it's focusing mostly on Jedi.
And they're all stoic, and they all basically have the same personality. It's like populating a Star Trek show with just Vulcans.
No, not all stoic.
Sure,
is Anakin stoic?
Like what is?
Anakin's not stoic.
Well, no, he's passionate and kind of a psycho.
Obi-Wan's not stoic.
I would say he's pretty stoic, but he's a little less stoic than Qui-Gon and Mace Windu.
Yeah, but
and
Qui-Gon's a
Yoda.
Jedi Master. You're supposed to be kind of stoic.
I guess, but maybe that's an inherent flaw in the series too.
But I guess one of the things that that Lucas got right about the storytelling, especially in New Hope, and this is getting back to actually answering the original question, is the way, if you go back, you watch the special features, the scenes in Anchorhead and all that. They're nice. They don't really take anything away from the story, but there was a point where Lucas realized that if you wanted to make it, you had to follow someone all through the story. So despite the fact that Luke is arguably the main protagonist of the original trilogy,
he is the hero of the hero's journey.
Right, he showed it all from the droid's perspective,
Oh, yeah.
particularly C-3PO.
Right. Well, yeah, because they're in all of them, and it's supposed to be well, actually, I think more like R2D2 than C3PO, but
Right, because he's apparently the one that
he's the only one that kept his memory the whole time.
Yeah.
But
I think
but he's
maybe giving them
because the
better
droids
hints
are kind of the MacGuffin of the series. I mean, it's
also the Greek chorus as well. They're commenting on the action.
You're right. Yeah.
Almost to the audience. Comic relief too, which is why you don't need giant
Jar Jar Binks.
goofy rabbit.
Yeah, but
not to be confused with the giant goofy rabbit alien from the comic books.
but even
Literally a giant rabbit.
yeah, but even like in the prequels, C3PO's comic relief was not really that funny. I mean,
Well, yeah, and that's the charge I would make against you by saying that the prequel dialogue is as well written, whereas
well, when it comes to the jokes, maybe I'm just talking about even the serious dialogue. You know, I can point right at everyone's sacred cow, Empire Strikes Back, and be like, okay, so it's not true, it's impossible, blah, blah, blah. That's just as bad as I slaughtered them like animals.
Well, I'll tell you something. I mean, I don't know if you have read it, but I mean, I'll probably mention it for the audience's sake. Alan Dean Foster did the novelization of the original A New Hope, but it was based on not on the shooting script, but the last rough draft, which was nearly identical. And well, let's just say when Harrison Ford said to Lucas that, you can write it, but we can't read it. The dialogue that was in that script was unimaginably bad.
right, it reads like
even
bad
by
Trek.
Yeah, even by Lucas's standards.
Wow.
And it was, it was only, I mean, they brought the script doctors in and they put a lot of zap into it, and repartee, trimmed out a lot of the really clumsy stuff.
And certainly when you have an actor of the caliber of Sir Alec Guinness and who played Tarkin?
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing. They just add so much weight to the dialogue.
Yeah.
So even if the dialogue itself is a little dry, it's their delivery which makes it so much more, gives it so much more presence.
Yeah, like Alec Guinness. It's stuff. His lines. He delivers them so well. So
Right, you actually believe that he's the character, even though if he was cursing under his breath through the entire shoot,
Which he probably was.
You're making me read this garbage.
realizing that this is going to define his career, especially when we get to Jedi and him realizing just how absurdly popular these movies are.
Right. Yeah.
Well, he always referred to it as his little annuity.
Yep. He's getting paid. That's it.
And playing all the way to the bank.
So, what about some other things that have to do with Star Wars? Obviously, you have toys and such, but
It's the beginning of the franchise, isn't it? I mean, like the franchising out a popular movie series. I can't think of anything before that was quite as popular. I mean, Trek had toys and comic books and whatnot,
but nothing like what Kenner did. Yeah.
Right. Because Lucas was smart. He made sure that he held on to the rights of all the imagery and the name Star Wars and all the characters, so that he made himself a very rich man.
Yes, he did.
And there's another point about it too, because I mean that gets into just how valuable a license is. I don't think a lot of people realize during the 1990s, Lego as a company was in a lot of trouble. I can't say this for certain, but I am fairly sure that between Mindstorms and the Star Wars license that they got and still have, I'm pretty sure that's what saved the company.
Oh, probably.
Oh, they bought all the best franchises. Yeah.
Yep.
Because there had never been a licensed Lego property before the Star Wars prequels.
We should do a Lego episode.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. One of the cool things that I saw not too long ago when I was in a comic book store is the original draft of Lucas's story
That they've turned into the comic book series, The Star Wars.
or something like that. Yeah, and it's going to be coming out in trade paperback soon. But it's like a 7-part series, where it was like Luke Starkiller or whatever, it's like his original draft of his idea for Star Wars or whatever it was, and then they storyboarded it, and it looks pretty awesome.
And I believe those were based on really early treatments and screenplays that he wrote that he stepped back and realized that it would be
It's not going to work for
far
his
too
movie.
expensive.
Right, it's not
that
going to work
no
for his
studio
movie,
would approach it.
but it makes a great comic book.
Well, that does get into one of my pet peeves about the prequels, and I think I can sum up what was wrong with the prequels in one sentence. Mm-hmm. Lucas, being the master of special effects, could do literally anything he wanted by the time the prequels came out.
And he did.
But should he have?
No.
Right. It's not. They're unimaginatively directed for the most part. The CGI backgrounds are glaringly awful. It's like you're watching cut sequences from a video game.
I don't know, but one of my pet peeves from the original series, not the original story, but special editions and such like that, was not so the things that they fixed. Some of it was a little superfluous, but like you didn't need the honeycomb guy in the musical
all they
scene.
really need to do is just clean up the matte lines.
Clean up the matte lines. No, but I liked what they did in Cloud City when they opened it up.
Yeah.
That looks a lot better than the original
It looks
tunnels.
like the windows were part of the set, and that was really amazing work.
So like opening up Cloud City was great. In A New Hope, adding in a bunch more X-wings approaching the
I didn't like
Death
that.
Star.
I thought that was obviously a CG scene.
I like that though.
I will say the one scene I'm glad they did put in A New Hope was the Jabba scene, and I may be alone in this, but I really like.
You are totally alone.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone like that.
I liked the way they handled it.
Oh, and
you
you
know,
made him step on his tail?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was kind of, it was goofy,
I don't
but
think
you
it
know,
needed to be there because they'd already explained all that dialogue already.
Yeah.
That was like going over the same ground twice.
but you know, the footage was there, and it
Oh, but you see why it was cut the first time.
yeah, because they could not do justice to the special effects.
Right. I guess it does reinforce the idea that Han is dogged throughout the series. I mean, they don't really show it. I mean, they make reference that he was ran into a bounty hunter in Empire at Ord Mantell or whatever.
Yeah, Ord Mantell.
And that, of course, eventually leads to Boba Fett. So there's foreshadowing there that I like the scene for, but ultimately it doesn't need it.
So, moving on a little bit to the expanded universe stuff.
Yes.
So, what are some of your favorite parts of the expanded universe?
I didn't indulge myself in the expanded universe like the both of you have.
Yeah.
But I did like the Dark Empire series. Was that published by
Dark Horse Comics.
Yeah.
Dark Horse Comics.
Although going back and reading it, it's kind of like the story jumps around and it is kind of complex.
I don't like the Clone Emperor. I thought it was stupid.
They did manage after the fact to somehow manage to knit that and the Zahn trilogy together.
Yes.
Eventually. It was messy as hell, but it worked.
Yeah.
And they brought back Boba Fett.
A superfluous second, fourth tier character, who becomes the most popular character in the series.
They did. Zahn introduced some great characters too. I mean,
Yeah, there are a couple guys in Heir to the Empire trilogy that I do like. I do like Grand Admiral Thrawn. I thought he's pretty awesome, and Talon Karrde. I like him too.
Yeah.
Again,
The concept of Mara Jade is pretty neat.
Yeah.
But I don't really like the idea of Luke having a love interest either.
Yeah.
I kind of like him just being the celibate space monk.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Mara Jade. I was kind of disappointed that they didn't cast anyone for her for the J.J. Abrams movie.
He's obviously disregarding.
He's ignoring all of the EU. They've already done that. They said we're making our own.
And this makes a good segue too,
Yeah, it's
because
a new-
although I am excited for a new trilogy, I mean,
Yeah.
I am, because it's awesome.
It's new Star Wars.
But at the same time, it's the same problem that I have with the expanded universe, and with the campaign that I was starting up that takes place after the events of Jedi. It's like, well, what do you do? The story's over. I mean, Lucas himself said, Star Wars, as he saw it, the Star Wars story ends with Luke redeeming his father. But yeah, what do you do? I mean, so a resurrected Empire comes back with another superweapon. They did that in the expanded universe countless times.
My guess
or
it's
the
not
Emperor
gonna be-
clnes himself, or yet another Sith Lord comes in.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Is actually what I think might happen is that one of Luke's students is going to go dark somehow. and you know, so that gets the whole, you know, Jedi training kind of thing going, and you know, how do you do that properly?
Yeah.
Luke still, you know, he's on his own, you know, through the whole thing.
And this is actually where when I'm taking place in arguments online about the Star Wars versus Star Trek thing, it's like that's where I kind of like step back and say, well, Trek is just so much more versatile than Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is just a fantasy tale. I mean, you have the good versus evil, Jedi versus Sith.
Right.
You have some colorful rogues thrown in, but that's really all it is.
And the other thing about Star Trek too, and that's the tricky bit, is that, you know, doing your own universe. I mean, J.J. Abrams could give a nod to the expanded universe in Star Wars if he wanted.
He'll probably borrow elements from it, like Lucas did with, you know, Coruscant, throwing that into the prequels.
But you know, I mean, the whole let's do the time plot again thing that Star Trek has, that, you know, that gave Abrams a lot of room to go back and create a reboot and make it work in the continuity of the universe.
Well, because he could just redo whatever he wanted to and change whatever he wants, because now it's a whole different alternate timeline.
Oh, I hope they don't do any kind of time travel in Star Wars. For some reason, that really rubs me the wrong way.
No time travel in Star Wars.
I don't think they've ever attempted that.
Nope.
But okay. So it's just not a thing.
Not a thing.
Not an element
Not a thing.
in
Nope.
their
Not a
storytelling.
thing.
Yeah.
Moving on to some of the other properties that go along with Star Wars, like video games and such, and role-playing games, like the one that you were running, which was pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
I played the West End Games version back in the mid-90s.
The D6 version, which was really cool. I like that one too.
And that was actually considered canon too. I don't know if that applies to the Wizards of the Coast version.
I believe it did, because pretty much Lucas was handing out canon like candy, because he didn't care as long as you paid him, and then, you know, he said, well, because the only thing that mattered to him was G-canon, what was in the movies. That's the only thing that really mattered. Everything else was kind of okay. It can be canon. That's fine.
When I talk to my expanded universe friends, there's this real feeling of betrayal that I get from them, that they believed when those novels came out, that was part of the Star Wars universe, that there wasn't like this EU versus G-canon thing. And then when the prequels came out and he disregarded a lot of stuff that they loved from the novels and comic books and video games, they really felt slighted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because like some of the video games, I remember I bought the original Xbox solely so I could play Knights of the Old Republic. The first Knights of the Old Republic. That game was fantastic. I think the consensus of, you know, all the Star Wars gamer nerds is that Knights of the Old Republic 1 is the Empire Strikes Back of the video games for Star Wars. You know, it's their sacred cow. It's the one they all love.
I go back to X-Wing and TIE Fighter. I
X-Wing
wish
TIE Fighter
those were still available.
Yeah, that was fun. It's a great little flight simulator. That was fun. I really liked Rogue Squadron for the Nintendo 64.
Oh, absolutely. I loved how you were sent on missions. You know, you are to guard this convoy.
Yeah, you gotta do this. Do that.
I noted Jack's Pacific, because they have those TV games you can just plug in. I have the Atari 2600 one at home. They came out with one that was Star Wars themed. No Death Star Trench Run.
Yeah. Well, the original Rogue Squadron didn't have that, but Rogue Squadron 2 for the GameCube, the first mission was the Death Star run, and it's like I played it over and over just because that's like my iconic thing from my childhood, other than the black hole, is
putting on the nostalgia glasses.
Oh baby, Black Hole was fantastic.
Everything's so much better.
Don't you ever say anything bad about the Black Hole. But yeah, so I run that trench run over and over again. In that, or the original Atari game there, well, not Atari, but it was made by Atari, but arcade game.
Yes.
With the trench run.
Yes, that was fantastic with the vector graphics.
Yes. I believe we are just about out of time, so...
I forgot how quickly this all goes by.
Yeah, I know. Half hour is just not enough time. So, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. May the force be with J.J. Abrams. I really like that he's shooting on 35mm film.
That's awesome.
His adherence to actual sets and not CGI backgrounds, practical effects. I have very high hopes.
I just want to reiterate, as far as creativity goes, always make sure you have an editor.
Right. All right, guys. Well, that's just about it. So, Check us out on Facebook, everyone. OCDTV. And thanks a lot, and have a great night.